I'm 70 years old now. That still feels strange to say sometimes. Some days I feel younger than that, and other days, well, I feel every single year, especially when I stand up too quickly or notice how long it takes me to cross a room. Losing friends is something no one really prepares you for. When you're young, you believe friendships are permanent. You assume people will always be there, always just a phone call away. You don't imagine a time when certain voices will exist only in your memory. In my 20s and 30s, friends came easily. Work friends, neighbors, people you met through your wife, through kids, through chance. We talked about everything: jobs, beliefs, money, plans for the future. We laughed loudly and stayed up late, convinced there was always more time. I remember one friend in particular. We met when we were both just starting out. Long hours, cheap coffee, shared complaints about life. We argued about everything: sports, politics, faith. We thought those arguments mattered. We thought they made us closer. Years passed, careers grew, families grew, and time. Time began moving faster, though we didn't notice it right away. The first time I lost a friend, I didn't know how to react. He got sick suddenly. 1 month we were talking about retirement plans, and the next I was standing in a hospital hallway that smelled faintly of disinfectant and old coffee. We didn't say much at the end. There was nothing left to argue about. I just sat there, holding his hand, listening to the steady hum of machines and the soft footsteps of nurses passing by. After that, losses started coming more often. Not all at once, just one by one. A heart attack, cancer, an accident. Each time it felt unreal, like my mind couldn't quite catch up with reality. Over the years, I noticed something unexpected. The memories that stayed with me weren't the big moments. They weren't the debates or the opinions or the things we were so sure about back then. What stayed were the small things. The way one friend always showed up early. The way another laughed too hard at simple jokes. The silence we shared on long drives, windows down, radio low. One afternoon, maybe 10 years ago, I ran into an old friend at the grocery store. We stood there between shelves, both a little older, a little slower. We talked about the weather, our families, our health, and when we said goodbye, I realized how much time had slipped through our fingers without either of us noticing. That's when it began to sink in. Friendships don't end only when people pass away. Sometimes they fade quietly, without warning, without conflict. And that can hurt just as much. Now at 70, I think differently about people. I listen more. I interrupt less. I don't rush to make a point. I've learned that presence matters more than opinions. Sitting quietly with someone often means more than having the perfect words. I still think about friends who are gone. Sometimes when I'm washing dishes or walking through the neighborhood, a memory will surface out of nowhere. A voice, a laugh, a moment I hadn't thought about in years, and for a second it feels like they're right there with me. Sometimes, late in the evening, I find myself sitting in the same chair for longer than I used to. The house is quiet. The clock ticks softly, steady and patient. And I think about how many conversations never got finished, not because we argued, but because life simply moved on. There were friends I meant to call, messages I thought I'd send tomorrow, visits I assumed could wait until next month or next year. And somehow, time decided for us. That realization used to make me uneasy. Now it reminds me to be careful with the moments I still have. I've learned that grief doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes as a memory while folding laundry. Sometimes it shows up as an empty chair across the table. Sometimes it's a name you almost say out loud before realizing there's no one to answer anymore. But I've also learned that losing friends sharpens your awareness. It teaches you to slow down, to notice the people who are still here, to listen when they speak, even if the story is familiar, especially then. These days I value simple company, sitting on a bench with someone, sharing a cup of coffee, walking side by side without needing to fill the silence. I've learned that friendship isn't about how long someone stays, but about how fully you show up while they're here. Sometimes I look at old photographs, faces frozen in time, younger versions of people I once knew so well. And instead of sadness, I feel gratitude. Gratitude that our paths crossed at all. Gratitude for the ordinary moments that turned out to be the most important ones. If you've lost friends too, you're not alone in that feeling. It doesn't mean you've failed at life. It means you've lived long enough to care deeply. At 70, I've learned this. Life isn't measured by how many people stay forever. It's measured by how gently we treat the time we're given. So tonight, if you're remembering someone, let yourself remember them softly. No arguments, no regrets, just gratitude. That's enough. If this helped you, consider subscribing so you don't lose it. Take care. Be well.